This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show. This is attorney Marc Kapetan, your host. Today's show is brought to you by the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. We've been serving the Central Valley since 1995. I think it's actually 1990, Marcella. 91, actually. If you or anybody you know has been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, please give us a call at 559-498-8000. Or if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, call the Kapetan Brothers Monday through Friday, Saturdays and Sundays. Also, 559-498-8000. Kapetan Brothers. We're the Valley's law firm. Marcella just got back from Italy, huh? Yeah. How was Italy?
I loved it.
She said she loved it. We got all the pictures of all the gelato and everything. Marcella got right back to work when she came back, and she got me a fabulous guest for today. She got me a very, very special guest. His story is one, I would like to say, is probably the quintessential American dream from being a star quarterback in high school. That led to a brief time in the NFL. Sort of brief time. Yeah. Pretty brief.
I had a great career going to put me in.
Thanks to Bart Starr. To a Hollywood success story, to a life in politics, actually the top of the heap in the Central Valley as mayor of Fresno. I think I'm giving you a hint as to who we have today. From humble beginnings as a cotton picker from Shreveport, Louisiana, his story can certainly be considered an American dream. But the real theme, or the thing I think is the most fascinating thing today, is what is the price that one man pays for the American dreams? In researching my next guest, I was fascinated that his success in attaining that dream is one thing, but the struggles that occurred along the way is truly an inspiring story. And how he overcame it. It takes a lot to wake up one day and realize that life can be an illusion and that you've lost your sense of self in Hollywood, which is, frankly, the land of illusions. Your daughter's going there, Marcella. Oh, did I get you worried now? Well, just tell her to listen to the show, okay? So here to tell us about the successes and struggles, former mayor of Fresno, star of big and small screen, including In the Heat of the Night, great show, Grace Under Fire, Popeye, love that movie, North Dallas 40, great movie, and of course his own production, The Legend of Jake Kincaid, and many, many, many others. By the way, 200, 300, 400, 500 episodes on TV from what I was looking at on your IMDb. We all know him. We all love him. Alan Autry. Welcome, Alan. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for that introduction.
Listen, it is a fascinating life. And by the way, Marcella's daughter literally got accepted to a film school, right? New York Film Academy.
That's fantastic. Is she moving to New York?
It's in L.A., though.
Oh, she takes you through L.A.? Yeah.
Okay. In L.A., yeah.
That's great. Well, you know what I found?
Words of advice, yeah.
Well, if it's obvious she's come from a good family. You're a good mama. And yeah, it's going to be all right. I've seen a lot of in that business, some people go sideways and fall to the temptations. You know, you're in pro football, you've been in politics, been acting. That's three areas that can send you sideways. Yeah. But I found that if you're raised well and you got the good values instilled, you might stray, but you won't stay. You might rebel a little bit, but you'll come back. She's going to be fine. That's largely
Shay. No rebelling for Shay, please. Okay.
Well, a lot of them don't even do that. They just they've been taught well, and you know.
You know what's interesting is we did a lot of music down there back in the day, and I always said, gee, I was always afraid when people went down to L.A. And Marcel, I'm not trying to scare you or anything like that, because she does come from a great family. I think she's going to be fine. But I'm sure you found this. The person that you meet is the friend of the brother of the blah, blah, blah. I'm working on a project. I just finished a project, or I'm starting a project with the brother of the friend of the cousin of Marty Scorsese.
Yeah.
And I call him Marty, by the way, right?
Yeah.
And it's a lot of illusion, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of folks, I don't know how it is today, back in the day when I went there, which was the late 70s, early 80s, there was a lot of that. That was all too often the prevailing attitude that you go there, you want to be an actor, you don't think about becoming, good at it.
Yeah.
For some reason, you think if you just find somebody who's connected, they can get you there, and then say you did get the part. It's like the dog who caught the car. What are you going to do with it? Because you don't have the skills. You haven't developed anything. You looked up on the screen and you saw the actors that you really like make it look easy, but you don't know the years of training that went in to make it look easy. So you get there and you look for the shortcut rather than going there, getting into a good acting workshop, learning a craft. It's a learned craft.
Did
like
you
everything else.
Did you study it in high school?
No. But I remember when I got cut by the Packers, I was 25, and I got cut from the Rams. And I said, look, and I decided I'd like to be an actor. No training, no nothing. Very shy in front of people. I mean, it was painfully shy.
Really?
Say, but I wanted to do it. For some reason, it was just there. And I'd cut from the Packers. So what do? Well, you roll up the truck and you move to Beverly. I went to
from Green Bay to Hollywood.
LA. But I had a sensibility, Mark, that anything that you were going to do and try to excel at, you had to work at it. You had to practice at it. You had to learn it. And I remember thinking, I'm 25, but I'm going to be competing against guys that have been jumping around in tights at Juilliard for 7 years, learning the acting skills.
Right.
So I got to learn this. I looked at it as a craft, and I think it was a really good thing. One of the many bad decisions I made in Hollywood, one of the good ones was to get myself into an acting workshop, got into workshop, began that process of learning the craft of acting.
So you actually did go to classes and did the workshop. Okay.
Yeah.
And I could see the work ethic, because what most people don't know, and we'll get into it some more about the early family life, is you grew up, and this is a wild story that we're going to talk about. You grew up with the original name, but then you grew up as Carlos Brown, literally a farm worker. They say in one of your bios a migrant farm worker, but you weren't a migrant farm worker, right?
Well,
you were
a migrant from my definition is they moved around, they migrated.
Okay.
So back in the day, most of those were Okies, Arkies, and Mexicans. So they were all, now when you think of migrant, you think of people who cover just Hispanics or Mexican workers. And the definition has changed because most of the Okies, Arkies have left the fields, got educated, and that sort of thing.
But the work ethic.
So he followed the crops. I moved 6 times.
Your dad, Joe Duty, your stepdad, Joe Duty, right? Joe Duty?
Yep.
Right. But you were also, it's from a day gone by, basically. I hate to, make any comment regarding age or anything like that, but you were a cotton picker as a young kid.
I remember my mom picking cotton. I went to the fields with her, during the summer, and I remember she made me a little cotton sack, a little small cotton sack. So I would go in the row next to her while she would pick. And I tell you, that is one job, even for my mom. Back in those days, she was a two-handed picker. Anybody that had out there listening that's his relatives of grandpa or grandpa to pick cotton know what I'm talking about. I was a one-handed picker because I didn't learn how to do two. And when you got your cotton sack full, you put it over your shoulder, you walked it back the row, you weighed it on the scale, and the guy had a cash register there. Boom, 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 so many pounds, so many cents a pound, and you got your money.
You got your money right there.
Then you had to go over to that ladder, climb up the top of the ladder into this big cotton trailer with a plank across the top, and you walked out on top of that plank and you emptied your cotton sack.
Man.
You did all that yourself. Then you came back down and you went back out into the field.
Wow.
And that is one job even my mom said this, who loved to work because she loved to work.
Yeah.
That is one job I have no nostalgia for. The greatest thing I ever saw was a cotton picker coming into the thing going, that's it. Your job's gone. I go, really? Great. No more cotton picking, man.
And they said it's just horrible on the hands.
Oh, gosh. Her fingers would be all cut up. And
cut up.
Even though you wear gloves.
Yeah.
It's tough, but, it was fun. I remember this little black kid and I used to about 10 years old, Mark, and
Yeah.
we'd go up in front of our mothers and pick a bunch of cotton and lay it on the ground.
Yeah.
And we'd hide in the cotton, and our mothers would come up. They knew what it was, right? And they go, "Oh, my mother's name Verna," and the other lady would say, "Verna, I just found a pile of cotton."
Oh, a gift from God.
A gift from God. And my mom would go, "Well, I did too. Boy, aren't we blessed today?" And me and the kid are going, "Yeah, we're over there."
But I love, and we're going to get into it on the next segment. I love the fact, and we do have to go to a break, that your work ethic came from that. My mom took us a couple days because she used to pick strawberries as a young girl, and she took us out 2 days, and I realized I never want to do that work. But the fact that you had to do that
you go to
work,
school and get educated, didn't it?
right? But the fact that you did do that work translated into a career that was pretty amazing. So we're going to be right back with Alan Autry, cotton picker Alan Autry, Carlos Brown. We'll be right back right after this. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. This is KMJ at KMJnow.com or wherever you stream. Folks, you can check us out at KMJ's podcasts. Go to KMJnow.com or get the app. You can check out The Ray Appleton Show and Philip and E and John and Christina and all those, including my show, The Marc Kapetan Show. Welcome back to The Marc Kapetan Show. Also, check us out on Facebook and streaming. We don't stream live, though, do we? No, we do what? Hold on, folks. I got to turn this music down. Marcella knows.
KMJ.
Hey, well, yeah, we stream on KMJ Live. I got that. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, that's enough of that. Enough of the promo. Go like, subscribe, smash that like button, like the kids say. This is the Marc Kapetan Show, and we are back on with Alan Autry, who is the former mayor of Fresno, but more importantly, big-time Hollywood actor, I guess, is the cheesy way of saying it right now.
Hey, before we go to a quick subject, during the break, I got to tell Marcella, right?
Yeah.
This, because she told us during the break that growing up, she's a young lady, much younger than me, and said that she used to chop cotton back in the day. It was another job, not as hard as picking cotton, but it was, and what that meant, you would go and chop the weeds from around the cotton.
Oh, the weeds.
Thin it out a little bit. And to show you how bright I was back then. I mean, I'm not the brightest chrome on the bumper now, but back then I was really dim lit. But I was about 14 years old, and the owner of the farm put a hoe in my hand. Says, "Okay, I need you to chop this cotton." Done. So I said, "Chop the cotton." What? All right. So I went on there and I started chopping the cotton.
With the hoe, you were like whacking at it.
I'm chopping the cotton down. I remember thinking, now why do they plant this stuff just to me to go chop it down? Well, he's the farmer. He's the owner. He must know. Well, I got through a couple of rows where I see his truck go by, and he stops, makes a quick left turn, barrels down that dirt road, dirt flying, stops, jumps out. He says, "Carlos, what are you doing, son?" And I go, "Well, I'm chopping cotton. That's what you told me to do." He looked at that. He looked at me. He just started laughing and said, "Son, get in the truck. I'm going to take you into the shop." Then he explained to me on the ride in.
How did you get a scholarship to UOP?
Oh, hey, it's a miracle. A miracle of God. I don't know. Sat next to a smart person.
What did you
had good vision back then. They could.
What did you major in?
You know what? I majored in ag, and that's a story in itself. Because I love the people who work on farms. Love my dad. Love my mom. Love farm workers. I worked out there, but I hated the work. Every job I ever had, I got dirty from head to toe. I remember thinking, if I ever got a job where I just didn't get dirty, I would be a success. you
wouldn't have been micro on dirty jobs.
Yeah.
Then. Yeah.
And back then, I looked around, and most of those who didn't get dirty had an education. They had at least finished high school. Many of them had college.
You were the first one out of your family.
First one out of my family
to go to college.
Yeah, and I was but extremely shy because we moved 6 times in 5 years. My dad followed the crops.
Right.
So being the new kid in school, I wouldn't wish that on anybody once, but 6 times.
Yep.
I started kind of shutting down, and because I didn't make friends.
Only kid?
Only child. And I would, started not making friends after the third move because I knew I was going to be saying bye to them. So I didn't get close to people that
She's pointing at me.
that much. So you
Okay.
you know the
Yeah.
feeling.
So all those ex-girlfriends out there, I told you this is exactly it. My dad was a Marine, right?
Okay. You're
And we made friends. My brothers were my friends.
Yeah.
Okay. You were an only child. I could see why you shut down, because I knew we were going to move in 6 months to 2 years. And one day I would go up. In fact, I just called little Pammy, my old girlfriend from back then. I found her a number of years ago. And I just, and basically you go up one day and you say, "Hey, Pammy, we're going to leave. We're going to move now. Bye." And you say goodbye, and that's it.
That's it.
There was no internet.
no come back later.
Yeah, nope.
Dad doesn't get transferred there, then back to the same place too often in the military. Yeah.
But the ag was, it
Well,
intrigued
yeah,
me. You loved
it was. I moved there, and I just saw my dad come home coughing and stuff, and it was just, for very little wages. My mom could stretch $1 like nobody business. But anyway, talked about the ag major. I got into high school, and I remember Paul Stark was my counselor, and nothing against him. But I got my first little taste of how you can have people making assumptions about you, especially as a kid. And that's why I'm very careful about making assumptions about a kid's future based on where they are now or their experience in life and the conditions in life. Because I was very shy. I wouldn't say anything.
Right.
I was in there doing my counseling. He goes, "Okay, what do you want to? What's your major?" I don't know. Well, what are you interested in? I don't know. Oh no, I mean I was just intimidated just being there.
Yeah.
Well, what do you like? Like sports. Well, you can't major in sports. What do you like? I don't know. And then it came. Then it came.
Yeah.
This is what your dad do.
Oh.
I said, "Dad, he drives a tractor." He says, "Okay, you're gonna be an ag major."
Oh.
So I became an ag major, a major in something that I knew I didn't like because I just went along. And I just want to connect that to today as when I was mayor. I hear this phrase, and you've heard it.
Yeah.
You probably heard it, Marcella, and folks listening I know have heard it. This whole thing in the education world, this little phase that's still out there, unfortunately, it says, college isn't for everybody.
Right.
Well, yeah, it is. You can choose.
You think so?
You can choose to go there or not. You can go do a vocation.
Yes, of course. Okay.
But it wasn't for everybody. What he thought, what I think he thought, how the feeling I was getting from my counselor, was you're going to be like your dad. You're going to finish high school. That's as far as you're going to go. You can get on the tractor. You're going to breathe dust for about 30 years till you get emphysema, and you're going to go as long as you can go, and you're going to die poor. On the tractor, because that's what your dad. And I wanted to go to college worse than anything. I knew back then. So that's what I tell people: be careful, because you're telling a lot of these kids, many of them Hispanic kids, well, college isn't for you. Don't tell them that, because it's not coming across. I can tell you, in many of them, some may get it, but a lot of them are going to process that as, I'm just not college material.
But let me ask you this.
Do what your dad does. Work the fields.
Do you see that as a blessing that guy gave you? That he said, listen, you may end up, I think I'm just going to put you into something, but at least I think you're worthy of college.
Yeah, I do now.
Yeah,
I do now. Well, I do now. Then I didn't. It made me sick to my stomach. Mark, I was out there in Riverdale back in 1966. One of our first field trips was to go out to a sheep farm and castrate sheep with our teeth.
With your teeth, yes. Like the old Portuguese guys used to do.
Yes.
That's how they did it, Marcelo.
We had to do that in
But the
class.
high school had you
I'm
do
going, I don't want to be a bag major. They had the poor lamb now. Okay, Carlos, go bite it off. And
you would never get away with that.
And this little girl there, her dad owns the dairy. I wouldn't do it. She went right in there, went down, bit the testicles off of the sheep. They had a bucket there, spit it in the bucket. I mean, you imagine what they would do to a teacher now that did that?
They should give them a medal, because God knows we need all that stuff again. Listen, we're going to end that segment on that, because that was a great story.
That's honest to goodness truth.
We are on with Alan Autry.
I always have to say it. I have to preface it. I promise you it's the truth.
Alan Autry, probably the only politician that bit the what's off sheep.
No, I didn't do it. I refused.
You refused?
I refused.
Okay.
So
We'll be right back after this. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. This is KMJ at KMJnow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. Folks, you know the drill. If you've been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, who do you call, Marcella?
The Kapetan brothers.
Loud and proud, Marcella said that. Boy, you are rejuvenated after being in Italy. Kapetan Brothers Law Firm, folks. Listen, I'm going to pot this music down. If you have been injured in an accident, I am serious. We joke around here on the radio, especially with guys like former Mayor Alan Autry, who's our guest for today. We joke around, but if you've been injured in an accident, if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, I've done this for 33 years. My brother Peter's done this for 35 years. I was in court today. I'm doing a radio show tonight. We pre-tape these things, so I am in court most every day. We know what we're doing. It's a phone call. We've had multi-million-dollar awards, $10.5 million. We have a $27 million one in there, $1.7 million. So we've done it for years. We know what we're talking about. We could answer your questions and ease your concerns. Just give a call to the office, 559-498-8000. Back on with Alan Autry, In the Heat of the Night, Grace Under Fire, movies, TV. I'm looking IMDb, episode after episode, guest starring on tons of shows. Some of my favorites back in the day. What was Larry? Something. What was the one with Larry from MASH?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I got fired for that one.
Yeah, you got fired for that.
Yeah.
So, hey, by the way,
it wasn't my fault either.
You got hired by. Why? What happened?
Well,
anything?
I didn't have any lines, and I was just supposed to be the bartender.
What the heck was the name of that show?
Oh, gosh.
Anyway.
I'll never forget it. What was his name?
He was on MASH. He was the colonel.
McLean Stevenson.
McLean Stevenson.
Yeah, I think it was the McLean Stevenson show.
Okay.
I think that's what it was. So I hired a bartender. He's no lines, just, how you doing, Mac? And you just nod. And I could say I had to pay you more if you had a line.
Yeah.
So McLean Stevenson sits down there. Hi, Mac. And I went. Then the control tower goes, the bartender said something. The bartender said something. And what? I didn't say anything. I'll take it again. McLean was kind of a salty dog.
Yeah, that's what I understood. Huh?
And so did it again. So I'm going to make sure, for sure. I know I didn't say anything the first time.
Okay.
Same thing. Hey, Mac. Jesus, can you tell the bartender he can't say anything? And I'm going, what in the world is happening here? And McLean Stevenson just walks down the thing, talks to somebody. And then they told me my services were no longer needed.
No kidding.
Yeah. They had to pay me, walked out. And I still going, what in the heck? Who was...
You never figured out what it was?
No. Something went wrong in his electronic or something, but he was sure that I said something. But I wasn't going to get a knockdown drag out. Then you got to call your agent.
That's got to be crushing.
Call your agent. Hey, how'd it go? How'd it go? How was... Well,
it's just got to be crushing, though.
That early on, it was pretty rough.
But let me ask you this.
I was young and resilient.
So
back in that day.
So his first acting job came from Robert Altman, who was the producer or director of MASH, the movie, right? Huge director back in the day and stuff like that. But your first major role, other than some other parts, etc., his first major role is 10 years after the biggest show on TV called All in the Family with a guy who starred Carol O'Connor, probably the biggest character on TV for a decade in the 70s. It's about 10 years later. I note it's also about 20 years after the Civil Rights Act. And you co-star in a show with him with Carol O'Connor, Archie Bunker. What's it like when you get a job like that? I mean, that's the biggest of the bigs right there.
It was one of the biggest moments of my life, really. I was not quite a year sober, but I had quit drinking and doing drugs and got involved on an 8-year nightmare leading up to that. And the good Lord saved me.
And we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, saved me. And I went in like 4 or 5 times on callbacks for that show. The casting director, Nina Dutton, Nan Dutton, had told me when I came in, she was the one that caught and brought me in because she'd cast me in a couple other small parts. Mm-hmm. When I came in the door, she looked at me and says, if you don't get this part, there's no justice in Hollywood. I'm going, well, it's a fat chance I got it. There's no justice in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But went in and there was just something different inside me. I used to get real nervous for auditions, really nervous, and people could tell it. Every once in a while, I'd have a good day and get casted in it, just fake them out a little bit. But I felt a calmness in there. So I did the first audition with the casting director. They had me back again to do with the director. Then they had to call me back with Carol.
Yeah.
And I went in there with Carol, and I won't tell you that. I'm not going to sit there saying there weren't butterflies. There were, but it was still
nice guy,
control, wonderful guy, and did our scene.
Right.
And then I got the call about 3 days later that he had said, "I want him.
Really?
I want this guy."
Wow.
And we were off to.
He was all powerful, Marcella.
Yeah.
I mean, to get the nod from Carol O'Connor to be on his show, it was his show.
Yeah.
It was the first big show he had.
It really
after
meant a lot to him
Archie.
too, because Carol, for many years, even up to that show, we had many talks, and he felt a little guilty about the Archie character.
So it's funny. I have that in my notes. So it's almost as if it was basically a redemption for him to. I mean, because the show is also very racially based in many respects, and he plays a Southern police officer. The pilot, I just watched it again yesterday. He seemed to be somewhat heading towards that. Am I going to be a racially charged police officer in Sparta, Mississippi? But it must have been his need to show the injustices and
he felt it, which is a great motivation, by the way.
Yeah.
But he also felt guilt, like I was saying, about the Archie character. And I kept telling him, I said, "Pops," he wants you to call him Pops. I said, "You realize how many black folk love your show?
Yeah. They
understand that people were laughing at you. There was a show, and they have humor. You know, it's a racist. They're not. They get it.
Yeah.
They get who your character is, and they don't hold that against you.
But
I mean, it was Jefferson always got the best of Archie.
Yeah.
Edith always put Michael. He was always being put in his place when he would go overboard. But then there was just enough truth, the patriotic stuff in there, that he appealed to everybody. And he just says, "Well, I don't." I said the black people love you by and large. And he wouldn't quite believe it. But then we were shooting out on location outside of Conyers, Georgia. And we're sitting there setting up a shot, and a yellow bus load of kids come driving by real slow, full of young black kids.
Yeah.
They were hanging out. They saw us. They were hanging out the window. And as they're going by, they go, "Archie Bunker! Archie Bunker, we love you, Archie Bunker!"
That's great.
A load, about 50, 60 young black boys and girls.
And he finally realized.
Well, he looked at it, and he waved at them. They went by, and I'm sitting there. I mean, it couldn't have been better.
Yeah.
I looked over, and I go, "Okay, now you're going to believe me?
Yeah.
Do you believe me now, Pops?"
And TV was like that, Marcella, where, I mean, the young kids, they have no idea what, and I grew up in the South, they have no idea what real racism was about. It was horrible. It was insidious. And when you saw these things, this open discussion of race on TV, joking, teasing people, whether you're white, black, whatever, it was just this beautifully open thing. The only insidious thing about it now is that if there's racism, it's now hidden. You don't see it in plain sight, and so you can't tell the racist from the non-racist.
I tell you, that's a good point, because I tend to say that, and it blows people's mind until they go live in the South. Louisiana, I didn't spend much time there early on, but they're so far ahead of race relations in terms of interpersonal relationships, black and white.
Listen, you were picking cotton in the fields, probably with a majority of black people.
There you go. And it's simply because they've dealt with it longer.
Yes.
There was that before the migration happened up north after the Civil War, and then they stopped Reconstruction. Yep. There was no jobs. And so when migrated many of the black folks, so you have a rich black heritage in Detroit, New York, and a lot of the northeastern cities.
Yeah.
But in the South, they're so eons ahead. You'll see black folk, white folk really on an interpersonal level interacting. And like you said, that's why I get in trouble when I say this, but I said I'm too dang old to worry about that. I'm going to tell the truth, at least the way I see it.
Yep.
And there's more racism in Hollywood in your big northern cities out west here.
Absolutely.
But it's like you said, it's hidden. It's hidden, and they're not up front with it. And there's a lot of interpersonal relationships going on an everyday basis.
It's part of the illusion of Hollywood that we were talking about earlier. All right, we're going to be right back with Alan Autry. We're going to get to the significant redemptive part of your life right after this. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. We're going to pop this music down and get right back into it with former mayor. What do you call a former mayor? Mayor Alan Autry. What do you call a former mayor?
I don't, you just call me anything but late for dinner.
Is it still mayors?
I don't know. I don't know what the protocol is.
I just had dinner.
I was called quite a few things in my 8 years.
Oh, there's always controversy. I don't know. Why would you go into politics?
Just felt the call, and it was calling from the Lord.
I guess.
And I wasn't going to argue with him. Who wins that argument?
I just had a dinner back in Washington, D.C. with the ambassador of Portugal. They call him Excellency, so I think maybe that would be
Your Excellency.
So His Excellency Alan Autry. Okay, here's a great part about your life, and it's somewhat tough, but I think it's what makes a man, and so you have two significant parts about your life that I think is fascinating. And I love the psychology, and you tell me how it impacted you. Number one was you were born Carlos Alan Autry. Your dad was not Hispanic. His name was Carl Autry. Got your name from a famous a politician he liked in Shreveport, Louisiana. Carlos Spate? Really? What was he a city council member? What do you remember?
He wasn't a city council member. He was just
okay. Enough of it. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. So mom and dad break up early. Okay, you move with mom, or somehow she remarries this Joe Duty.
Yeah, we come to live with my grandfather out in Tulare she took me away when I was 11 months old. Came out to Tulare to live with my grandfather till I was 6.
Oh, that was the connection.
And then she married Joe Duty from 6 till I was 21. He raised me.
You go to Hollywood. You're very open about problems with alcohol, drugs, all those kind of things in Hollywood. At some point, I think the two significant things in your life is at some point you're doing a movie back in Shreveport, and you, for the first time, meet your father, and you take the name Alan Autry instead of Carlos Autry, your first and last name. You take the original middle name and last name. I want to know if that was trying to reconnect to the dad, just a great stage name, problems with mom, whatever it was. But also the other significant thing, at some point after the drug and alcohol addiction, is you're in Hollywood, and I don't know if it was after the big times or not, but you have to make a call back to mom, who's now on Social Security, and say, hey, mom, this ain't for me. I got to move back, and can I come and live with you? So what did those things mean to you in the long term of redemption, finding the Lord again, becoming the Christian that you are now today, and all the successes or failures or becoming mayor, et cetera, in your life? And I'm just going to throw it out there as one big, huge question.
Yeah. Well, the timeline on it was, I got a part of the movie's called Southern Comfort.
Right.
And I knew my dad. I'd never seen a picture of him. I had a driver's license, but there was no pictures back in those days. I didn't know if he was alive, dead, what have you, but I knew I was born in Shreveport. So we get in the hotel in Shreveport, and I do Southern Comfort. I'm there to do a movie. But I'm sitting around going, first day there, I'm going, what if? So I get the phone book out. And there was one Carl Autry on 1002 Eustis Avenue. I still remember it. And right then the phone rings, and it's Keith Carradine. He says, hey, Carlos, I was Carlos Brown.
Yeah.
And still am to a lot of folks. But he said, we got a rental car. When I go in to the mall, you want to go? I said, sure. But I just took that number down, street number, put it on a piece of paper, put it in my pocket. So we get in the car, we're driving along. There was like 5 of us in there. And I'm reading the sports page. I remember that. And I look up, and I see Eustis Street. I said, hey, Keith, are we in a hurry? He says, no. I said, well, can we turn around? I says, well, yes. And I told him the story.
Wait a minute. And you're going to tell the rest of the story, but you have Keith Carradine in the car with you at this time?
Carradine,
Your dad
Franklin
was
Seals,
blown away.
Peter Coyote.
Oh, my God.
Peter Coyote, who was in the movies in there.
Right.
So Franklin Seals was in the same car. So he says, no, turn around. And I told him the story I'm telling you. He says, you think your dad? I said, I don't know. It's a long shot maybe. So we turn right, second house on the right, 1002 Eustis. I get out of the car. I'm walking up to the house. There's a guy in the other lawn, the other house, working on a car. So I'm just going to make sure. I'm going to ask Carl Autry the story. I don't want to knock on the door. He'd obviously know, neighbor. So I walk over, and he's putting a tape deck in there. And I said, excuse me, sir, does Carl Autry live next door? And he came out from out of the car and looked at me. He says, well, I'm Carl Autry. And I looked at him. I said, you ever heard of a guy named Carlos Brown? He looked at me. He looked at the ground, and he said, what'd you change your name for, son? And I hadn't felt nervous or anything up to that point. I was there to make it, and then it hit me. I panicked. I said, hey, you know Keith Carradine, Kung Fu's brother? You want to meet him? I'm doing a movie with him.
That was your response?
Yes. He goes, well, sure. So we're walking over to these guys. I'm looking at him sideways. He's looking at me as we're walking. I'm not seeing anything. This guy looks like me. He told me later on he didn't either. Me.
Yeah.
And but these guys are laughing or pointing. And I said, hey, guys, this is my dad. And they go, you're kidding. You're telling us you guys are like twins. You look exactly alike. That's why we're laughing. They could see it, but we didn't. But to make a long story short, I was raised an only child. He had married a lady who was like an angel, Maverine. She recently passed away. Found out I had 5 half-brothers, 3 half-sisters, 5 half-brothers. I mean, so he had 9. So out of 4 different women. Papa was a Rolling Stone man.
He was.
And,
wow.
But anyway, after having met him, and I'll be real quick with this because there's some anger built up. And back then, I was still drinking. And he was one of those guys, when he wasn't drinking, Mark, he was a good guy. When he drank, he was a monster. Yeah. He was like Jekyll and Hyde. And that's why my mom left. She would have hung in there otherwise, but the physical abuse, and she was worried about me getting hurt.
Yeah.
So he invited me over to have dinner, met his wife. He was not in the best shape, met some brothers, sisters, and he's walking me out to my car after the dinner. This is like a week after being there in the town to do the movie. I'd had a few pops. I was feeling froggy, and it hit me. Because Mom never said anything bad. She just told me the truth. She wouldn't even talk about it unless I asked her. And we stopped, and a little awkward moment there, looking at each other. And then he goes, let me tell you something about your mama. I get a little bold up there, okay.
Ready to fight.
If he would have said she was greatly, or there's 2 sides to a story, and there may have been. Mom could have been just as bad as but anything.
Yeah.
What I built up this guy in my mind. He said, looked at me, goes, I went crazy, son. I just went crazy for a while there. Your mama is a good woman.
Oh my God.
She's one of the best people I've ever met. And I'm so sorry. And one of the great blessings God has given me was I was able to get a relationship with him, come back to California, get my mother on the line with him, and allow him to say that to my mother.
Wow.
And see that, that lifted off of her.
Oh my God, that's powerful.
So it was a good trip. It was a good trip.
The same mother that when you said, Hollywood, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
She took you
I was
in.
at my wits end. My wife had left me and should have. I had a 4-year-old daughter. I was 40 years old. Didn't have a pot to you-know-what in. And couldn't pay rent, so I called Mom and said, can I come home? And I went home, and there I was, grown man, raising a daughter, living with my mother on Social Security, and still going out doing crazy stuff. And I went out one night and did an exceptionally crazy thing. Almost got myself and some others killed
Yeah.
in L.A. And I'll make this as quick as possible. I came in, I'm going to take a walk. And I took a walk down to this slough where I used to play when I was a kid. And it was just completely silent, I remember, a early summer day. The only sound, kind of weird how you remember certain things. The only sound I heard was this tractor way in the distance. No birds, no nothing, looking across that slough. And I said, God, if you're here, please let me know. Because I'm on a level with you, God. I've always said I believe in you. I pray, but I don't even know for real. But I'm hurting, and I think I'm dying. And if you can't do it for me, please, for my kid, please let me know. Please help me. Let me know you're real and help me. Well, the next thing I had done, I'm not going to say what I saw next. It's like I see you standing here.
Right.
But in my mind's eye, it was as clear as I've ever seen anything. And I saw myself on my deathbed. And I was laying there. Sounds, felt like I could smell the sounds of the hospital, the sounds of the equipment, at least in my mind. It was that vivid of a mind's eye image. I'm just laying there. Time's up. It's the end. I remember thinking, well, if I had 4 Super Bowl rings right now, would that matter? Because I always struggled with what mattered and wanted to be somebody.
Right.
Never felt like I mattered, measured up, or was anybody. And did a lot to reinforce that in myself. No, I wouldn't. What if I had millions of dollars in the bank right now? Would that make me feel like I mattered or I felt like no? What if I had 4 Oscars? Well, people who've seen me act know that was a real silly thought. But that was what I thought. Would that make me feel like somebody? No. But if my mom came in, pulled up a chair and said, son, before you go, I just want to thank you for being a good son. Not a rich son, not a famous son, but a son that treated everybody with respect, whether they were rich, poor, whatever color they were. You treated them with respect. That meant something. That made me feel like somebody. If my friend walked in and said, hey, buddy, before you go, I just want to tell you, thanks for picking up that phone when I called you at 3 a.m. when my wife left me and took my 3 kids, and you talked to me till the sun came up. Before you go, I just want to tell you, thank you for being a good friend.
The true measure of a man.
That made me feel like that would make me feel like somebody right now. And then the capper was with my daughter would come in, say, Daddy, before you go, I just want to thank you for being a good daddy. Not a rich daddy, not a famous daddy, but a daddy to let me sleep with him when that storm was outside and I was scared to death. Mm-hmm. A daddy who taught me right from wrong. A daddy who didn't let me do things that were dangerous and was willing to be hated before he was loved because he wanted to teach me the right thing. That meant something. Well, at that moment, I realized God was real.
Yeah.
He was speaking to my heart, and he was letting me know the things that matter. And I realized that you couldn't get them from being an actor, a pro football player. They were right in front of you all along, just by being a good, godly person. So when I got up from there, it would be 37 years this October that I've had a drink of alcohol or a drug in my system, because he totally removed that from me by revealing his realness, his presence, and the things that matter in life.
A testament to your faith, more so, or just as equally, a testament to Verna, right? Your mother.
Verna Duty,
Verna Duty,
She was a Rosie the Riveter during World War II.
May her memory be eternal, as us Greeks say.
Boy.
She raised a great son. She
folks,
really
I want to
did.
get a little plug for Kapetan law firm.
Yeah, a little plug.
Call Kapetan because Kappa can.
Okay, I love it. We'll see you next week on the Marc Kapetan Show. Alan Autry, thank you so much.
Appreciate you, Mark. Thank you.